Hey, Liam.
Where are you right now?
Episode 7, New England Sports Media Podcast, continuing with our trend of some people who are behind the cameras making some cool, creative things. Annette Grant, proud of currently Brockton, Massachusetts, but all over Massachusetts, shooting high school kids, doing cool stuff. Thanks for being with us.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. First things first, give us a little background on how you got into photography. I know you've been in photography for a while, sports photography. How did you get into it? Why do you like it so much? And what's it mean to you?
Yeah, so photography is something that I've always done since I was a kid. But growing up, that was never a career avenue because you were never told that those type of, fields would hold you over or make you money. So I didn't really pursue it as a career until I was an adult. And that was just from a little bit of push from my husband, seeing that I loved what I did. And he said, you should really just try and pursue this. And once I got that kind of clearance from him, that he would be okay with me coming out of that corporate type world, it was just full force from there. It was full force from there. And I started with portraiture, which I still love. But there was a point where my son is part of a league out of Boston called No Books, No Ball. It's a very old organization, about 30 years old now.
Shout out Aaron Cooley. He just talked about that with us earlier today.
I told Ethan too. I said you guys should really hook up with well, I don't know if it would be your avenue because you're more about media, but Tony Richards is a very well-known guy throughout the city, and he's been able to hold on to this league for 30 years now. And every year there's a wait list for kids to get into this league because that's how well it's run. But anyway, I did portraits for the kids in the league, where they hold the ball and they smile and they take the team picture and the parents purchase photos. But I kind of started spending time watching the games and decided to take my camera in to, just because I was there and photograph some of the kids while they were playing. And that's where I was like, I kind of like this baseline feel. This is fun. I could sit there all day. I got clearance from Tony to sit there. He said, stay as long as you want. And then I started providing photos for parents of their kids when they were just kind of learning the game. And that's where I kind of began to hone the skills of freezing the action and basketball photography.
Just going through your Instagram, like you've done some pretty sick projects. Like how do you get the idea to do like slam covers and stuff like that?
I have a little bit of creative juice, just a little bit. So when I do the packages for the kids, I always offer like this magazine cover type package just because the kids, think it's cool and imagine themselves on a cool sports magazine. So it was something that I did from, those portrait packages for the kids. And the slam covers came about because the high school kids, of course, are, they see other high schoolers that are actually on these magazine covers. And it was just an idea. It's not, I got clearance from Slam that it was okay to do it because I knew I was going to be posting it on Instagram. And the kids just kind of love to live vicariously. Some of them, might even get to that level. Others may never. But just the idea of seeing themselves in that type of position was fun for them. So, it's just I don't have a lot of creative juice on that in like Photoshop, but that's one thing that I know I can do.
Did you play basketball growing up? Like, what's your basketball background?
My basketball background is I've loved the sport for a very long time. But I decided as a senior in high school that I would try out for my team. And I got cut like after the second tryout because I knew nothing. I knew the sport. I loved the sport, but I had never played. And I decided I wanted to pick it up then. But by the time you're a senior, there's not much they can do with you, right? So,
right.
You just kind of end up sitting out. But I continued to love the game, of course, and followed it, followed college basketball. I actually kind of love college basketball far more than I do the NBA, which I shouldn't say because I'm contracted with the NBA. But anyway, you guys edit that out. But yeah, I've always loved the game. I play now just as practice. We hoop around, my husband and I, and we play. But I would never do any pickup or anything because my teammates would be highly upset that they picked me as a teammate.
So what is your kind of like during a normal basketball season when you have high school, college, pros all going on at the same time? Like, what does a normal like week in the life look like?
It could be pretty hectic. It could be pretty hectic. So the no books, no ball thing, I am just completely committed to. That's the Pee Wee. So that's Saturdays, usually from 9 in the morning to 6 o'clock at night because there's so many kids. Now I don't necessarily have to stay all day, but sometimes it ends up being that way. So from October through about April, which is when the other basketball seasons begin also, I'm usually at the Orchard Gardens gym most of my Saturday. I was doing BC for a while, which their games are like Tuesday nights, and I think it was maybe a Friday or something like that. I couldn't do the weekend games because I had other obligations. So I would always do the Tuesday games for them. The NBA thing was, I'm just a contract employee for them. So it's kind of few and far between that I was doing that stuff during the regular season. And then it's really just picking and choosing what games I want to show up to for the high schoolers. What was happening is that they saw that I was coming, and then they would start to DM me to come and cover their games. So then I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to? So I literally had to just pick days that I would go out and cover. And I wouldn't tell them if I was coming. I would just kind of show up. And that way I don't have to like make promises or break promises, that kind of thing. I would just show up and cover the games. But the weeks are they're pretty heavy and pretty hectic. In a regular season, this year is nothing like what it would have been last year. But it can really be a really hectic time of the year for me. And mind you, I have 2 small kids. So, trying to figure out what to do with them when I'm at all these games. They hate basketball now, which breaks my heart. I'm hoping my son, who just turned 8, will grow to love it, because I really need to see one of my kids play. But they're just like so done with being, carried around to all these different basketball courts and all of that. So it's a really serious juggling act, but I just wouldn't have it any other way. I really feel like those are the grind times where you really build your career, and you have to make certain sacrifices, and that's what we were willing to do as a family.
When you're doing a game for the NBA, what types of things are you looking for? Like, what do they have you doing?
So the first time I did Summer League 2 years ago for them. And that year it was basically the baseline photography. I just covered, the first year I actually came in as a Clippers photographer, because we have a friend that we know who's friends with the communications director for the Clippers. So he actually reached out and was like, hey, can you get a credential, so she can do some baseline. So that was the first time I did it. And that was just taking the action photos for the different teams that were there, depending on if there's space available on the floor to sit down and and cover it. That was the first time. The next time I went, I was actually in position to they hired me to work. So in that instance, I had to do a press release conference for an app that was sponsored by the NBA called Home Court. And I was pretty boring. It's just they're introducing the app and how it works and that kind of thing. I did that. But then I was also assigned to Adam Silverman's Instagram page. So, he has an Instagram page, but he doesn't take the pictures for it. So basically what I was doing is I was getting people behind the scenes, different interactions and that kind of thing for him to post on his Instagram page regarding Summer League and the people that were out there. For the event for those days. So that was cool. That was a good mix of, the baseline, the behind the scenes, press releases, all kinds of different things. But that was a hectic 4 days, but it was a lot of fun.
So I feel like most basketball players seem like they love the camera. Have you ever come across a player who like is kind of camera shy?
Camera shy? No, I would say the only person who could care less about the camera that I came across was LeBron James. He,
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I mean, at this point, he's just like, it's just normal for all the flashing lights. And literally, when he came to Summer League to watch the Lakers, line up play, it was like paparazzi, and he casually walked in with a few friends and came and sat down. That's one of my favorite pictures, actually. came and sat down. This is before Anthony Davis actually started to play. This is the first year he was there. And they were just hanging out on the court, you know, on the baseline under the rim, watching who was playing, and we're just right in his face, just flashing like crazy. And he's just having a conversation like it's normal. So he wasn't shy, but he could care less about the camera. I haven't had anyone that was shy. At that point, I think they're just accustomed to it. Even the kids that are coming in, yeah, they're like, this is just part of it.
What do you think when you're doing the high school games and the high school kids, like, what do you think it means to them? Like when you're taking their photo, especially like when you did like the BPS senior shoot, like that's like a community thing. Like that's not like, you're not like, oh, I'm doing this like for clout. Like you're doing it for the kids, obviously. Like, like why do you have that motivation and inspiration to really like get in there and give those kids some love?
I don't know. I just love my city. You know, I love my city, and I love these kids. I come to just form relationships with a lot of them when I see them all the time, and I have a really high motherly instinct. So you know, there's just a natural caring for these young people, and just living in the city, not playing necessarily in the highest AAU tournaments or teams, and not getting any type of exposure throughout the city because they're not necessarily high level players. It just seems unfair that they don't get the same kind of highlights that the others might. We have 1 or 2, maybe 3 kids that come out of the city every year that get to play at a D1 level in college. And the rest are playing just as hard, you know, but they just don't get the same love. So I make it a point to make sure that they feel special, just as special too. And I think that's just who I am. You know, I don't get any money for those kinds of things. It's just, you know, something that I enjoy doing. Even over the summer, when the kids they didn't have any inside courts, so everybody was kind of hanging out outside and playing. You know, I did a lot of photography for that. I'm like, you know, it's not the regular high school, but they didn't get that. You know, I could still give them the same level of photography that I would have if I was covering a high school game. And again, no money, just keeping the dust off my cameras and you know, making these kids happy is really what it was all about for me.
How do you find out about a lot of these runs in the city and some of these kids like that you see on your Instagram? Like how you find out about them through like No Books, No Ball, or what?
No, these kids, a lot of these kids, like I said, I've grown to have some level of a relationship with. And so they'll hit me up like, Auntie, I'm going to be at, most of them call me Auntie. I'm going to be at this park. Can you come through? I'm like, we'll see. You know, I'll let you know. So, and you know, when you're friends with them or when you follow them on Instagram and there's something is happening, they'll post it and they'll let everybody know. And then there's times where they'll specifically look for me and ask me if I could come out and take some pictures. And so I tried to get to as many as I could, but you know, we are in a pandemic, so you still have to be mindful of that. But I just, if I can do something that's going to give them a little bit of joy, then I'm always all for it. And sometimes I run myself into a ground trying to make people happy, but it's really what brings me joy, you know. So I get fueled when I make other people happy in that way, you know, with my gift. So yeah, so they'll reach out to me and they'll tell me about different things, and I'll go out to as many as I possibly can.
And is this more of like a last couple years thing for you? Like when you were working more corporate, were you able to do these types of things or no?
So what happened was I was doing it on the side for a while. I was working in a hospital during the week, and then on the weekends for like No Books, No Ball, I would do those things. I wasn't into the basketball photography scene yet. So I think it was about 2015. I just said, I talked to my husband, of course, and we just agreed. He was like, you should just go full force. And so I came out of that job and I went to school. I went to New England School of Photography, which was in Kenmore Square at the time.
Yeah, right next to we both went to BU, so I know exactly where the Bertucci's used to be.
Yes, the whole building is gone. Have you seen it over there? They
it's
tore
crazy.
down the whole building. I'm like, my school is gone.
But where city convenience was, everything.
Yep. That store right on the corner. Yep, everything is gone. Everything is gone. But I went there, full time. for 2 years, and you know, kind of honed my skills there and really learned how to work my camera, because I wasn't using it to its full potential. And so school helped me to learn how to use the camera to its full potential. And it also taught me how to, you know, freeze that action and get those shots. So it wasn't until I graduated from there in 2017 that I really started producing the level of photography that you guys will see now. And it really does come from that New England School of Photography environment. So I never had to really balance all of this basketball craziness with corporate, because I was already out of that corporate situation when I started going full force into the basketball photography.
So in addition to photography, you know, there's you, but there's also a lot of people doing video stuff. A lot of the people, the high school kids, like obviously the Connect is kind of like the one that probably
Yeah, that's
everybody
my guy.
knows. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's others, of course, too. What's kind of like the relationship like between the people like you that are all kind of in there to promote the kids and stuff? You know,
Mm-hmm.
are you guys? What's it kind of like when you show up, when you all roll up at the same place? Like what are kind of the conversations like?
I mean, I can't say what's in other people's minds. I don't know. For me, there's enough for everybody out here to eat. You know, what you have to do is you have to make sure you have a craft that you made your own, have your own look, your own signature, and you do it well. You know, always function in a level of excellence. If you look at my page, if I see a picture that's almost there, you're not going to see it because I'm not going to post it. So in these environments, you're going to see all levels. Every week there's a new kid with a camera in their hand, you know, wanting to get in, and that's fine. You explore what you can do, but the conversations that I have, I want to know where you're from. I want to know what you're doing. I want to know why you're doing it, you know, and it's really cordial. I've actually made a lot of connections just being able to talk to people. I don't know what they say once they leave, but when we're together, it's all love, you know.
Are there any kind of like people who are kind of like rising stars you're noticing that might not have like a following yet, or people that you kind of like, any young kids that you think are really putting together some good stuff? I know we mentioned Aaron Cooley earlier, but like, you know,
Yeah.
any other people that you think are kind of like sort of putting it together that we should watch out for?
God, I can't throw out names right now, no, because I might say somebody and miss somebody
No
else.
worries, no worries. That's a good diplomatic answer.
Yeah, I've come across a lot of young people, and I do follow. Once I know who they are, I do follow them. With the photographers, the ones who come to me anyway, and I meet and they're working and follow. If they ask me something on how they can improve, then I will let them know what they can do better. So it's really hard to say at this point who's an up and comer. The thing about it is that so many people come in, but then they're only there for a few minutes and then they're gone, you know?
Right.
So yeah, I'm going to keep that right there. I'm not,
I got you.
I know too many. But I respect
And you got a good
them all.
Instagram too. I mean, you got almost 2,000 followers. Like, when you first started, what was the reception like from people? And like, was it hard to grow a follower base?
Listen, I get excited every day when I see 2 more followers, but I can't celebrate that because these kids have like 5,000, 3,000 followers. So I'm like, hey, you know,
Can't even compare.
1,500. I can't even compare. But what I do know is that with Instagram, the most important thing is to stay consistent with what you put out. And so I am regularly just putting out new material and making sure I tag the people who are associated with it. And then I even send them the pictures so that they can post on their own page, and then ask them to make sure that they tag me. And that's kind of how I've been able to build. It's a really slow build, but I'm okay with that. I feel like when you grow at a small and steady pace, you have more ability to sustain and remain. So I'm slowly building. I'm seeing a lot more growth this year, which is crazy because we're in a pandemic. But it's happening. It's happening a little bit over time. I might publicly celebrate once I hit 2,000. But
That's fair.
for now,
It's a good milestone.
Definitely.
you know, like I've worked really hard. I started with I remember I was stuck at about 700, between 700 and 8, and then I would gain 2, lose 1,
Yeah.
lose 2, gain 1. And then I just stopped looking. I was like, I can't, this is going to drive me nuts. I'm not going to do this
I'm
to
like that
myself.
on Twitter. It's bad.
I don't use Twitter. And, I'm really wondering if I should jump on that side of things and start using that as well.
Yeah.
Because I don't use my Facebook platform for this, although I have my Instagram is kind of connected to my Facebook, so things automatically go there. I don't put a lot of time into it. I only do Instagram, but I'm not really sure about Twitter for photography per se. So I haven't gone that route
You
yet.
get those 10 tags. That's all I know is you go on Twitter, you get 10 tags. What I'm curious, like your kind of approach to social media. I mean, obviously most of the kids are using Instagram probably like at the highest level. I mean, probably very few have Facebook, if any, and then maybe some have Twitter. Did you kind of like in learning your whole photography thing, did you also kind of have to learn Instagram too? And like, how did you learn it?
I'm still learning Instagram, honestly. I have great kids, young people where some stuff I just don't even have the time to try and figure out. I'll just ask them, or I'll give them my phone even sometimes and tell them to fix something for me, But the basics of it, I know enough to be able to do what you see, public now. I'd like to kind of explore it a little bit further to see how I can better use it. I think Instagram for me is great as far as getting my name out there and getting people familiar with what I do in my work. I don't know necessarily if it's beneficial financially, you know what I mean? So if someone can show me that benefit, I'd probably put some more time into it.
Someone get her the blue check. Her the blue check, right?
I get all these people all the time saying I can get you blue check certified or something like that. But I'm like, do I need a blue check and I only have 1,700 followers? Like, what does that?
Yeah, then they'll steal your credit card number too, or something.
See, because there's always somebody that says I can get you blue. I never even look into it, but I'm like, how are you gonna certify me with 1,700 followers? Like, how does that work? So I can wait on the blue check certification. I'm okay with slow and steady growth.
Moving forward, kind of like, I mean, obviously it's the pandemic and everything's messed up, but like, are there any sort of like projects or goals like moving forward that you're trying to, or events that you're trying to cover, like that you'd like to get to? Doesn't have to be like a big time event. You could just be like, you want to cover a high school game in every state. Or I don't know, are there any sort of things?
Yeah, that's high. Every state.
I don't know, just or every New England state, or just some random, any sort of like projects or goals you're looking for?
My goal really is I really want to be at a place where, and I guess that's everyone's goal with their own business. I want it to be consistent with the financial aspect of it. That when people call me, they respect the work enough to be willing to pay for the work. I feel like I've grinded a long time now, and you've seen what I can produce for you. So now is it getting, my goal is to get the respect that my work deserves financially. So, and that's going to come over a slow build as well. There is a mix of people now that I've worked with for a while that were like, I would never call and ask you to do something for free at this point, and I appreciate that. And I just want more of that. Not because I'm trying to get rich off of this. I really do love what I do. But I need to justify what I do, with an income. And every year, honestly, every year the income grows. Every single year is better than the previous year. And so it's more about patience, and just continuing the grind. But as far as events go, let me see. Some of the events that I wish I could cover are things like Peach Jam in Atlanta. No, is it Atlanta or Texas? I think it's Texas, actually. But Peach Jam is a great event.
South Carolina, isn't it?
Is it South Carolina?
I think it might be South Carolina or Georgia. Probably Georgia.
I'm saying peach jam, so I'm thinking Georgia peach. So I'm thinking
Right.
it's
Yeah.
Georgia.
I think you're right.
McDonald's All American. Like I would love to cover those type of events. I would love to be a part of.
What about Hoop Hall? Hoop Hall right in Springfield.
I have people that went to Hoop Hall and they were like, "Is the staff is just so grimy." I shouldn't say that, but the staff, just trying to get in and work. I know people who have worked it, and it's just not a pleasant experience because of what they go through to just try and capture the footage.
Mhm.
And that's different levels. That's not just, people just trying to get their foot in the door. These are respected photographers and videographers who have credentials to do these things. And it's just not a fun environment. So
Right.
I like to have fun when I do it. So I might still try and do it just to say that I have, but it's not necessarily on the top 5 list.
For sure. All right. Well, we appreciate your time, and it was great getting to know you and talk to you, and wish you the best moving forward. And hopefully we get some consistent basketball to be able to at least watch at some point, other than the
I think
NBA.
we will. I think we will. They're saying fall, probably not, but around springtime we should be able to get some stuff. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We hope.
That's all we can do. Fingers crossed.
All right. Annette Grant.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
We're getting there. We're not great yet.
All right, I like that. Stay hungry, stay humble, as they always say.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
That's the podcast. Until next time.